So start off with, some of you guys are rather hostile online, man. I did not know that my background behind me had caused so much ire on there. Someone told me it didn't make sense and that it was just plain boring, and I can't 100% disagree. But to be fair, when I was putting it together, it's just my office, and I like ships and I like good books. So hey, nothing wrong with that, right? And going where I plan on going today, I have no notes, no thoughts ahead of this. I've been just kind of thinking about it all day, and I had a conversation with someone young today about this, and I want to get into the idea that everyone is talking about, not the idea, but the person that everyone's talking about right now, which is Nick Fuentes. And we're going to dive into my assessment of him based off of my understanding of Christianity, the background of the Bible that I have, and after talking to someone of the age group that Nick Fuentes is targeting, and hearing from them their thoughts and opinions. Welcome to the Ripple Effect. So this is going to be a unique one. It's going to be different. But I kind of want to start with the headline. There was a headline that was put out there today saying, is Nick Fuentes going to replace Charlie Kirk and take his place, right? And I guess they have reasons to ask that. It seems like TPUSA has softened up on a lot of the stance that he was so dramatically opposed to. You can watch moments when he was debating with people that were groypers. Charlie Kirk, I mean. And just visceral anger against them shows you what he thought. And then the comments he made to Dinesh D'Souza after Dinesh D'Souza debated Nick Fuentes, showing that he was upset with Dinesh D'Souza for daring to platform Nick Fuentes. We know where Charlie Kirk stood on this. And TPUSA, if you want to fail his memory, continue to platform people like Tucker Carlson. And don't get me started on Tucker Carlson. I'll cover Tucker Carlson on a different day. I grew up a good portion of my life in Russia and know how they think and work. And that guy was played like a little fiddle. I've never seen someone either so dishonest or so absolutely incredibly unintelligent as Tucker Carlson, who's literally had everything in his life handed to him. And even at one point, if you want to talk about his new best bud, at one point Nick Fuentes even pointed that out. Now, on the point of Nick Fuentes replacing Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to give you some points right here. Nick Fuentes can never replace Charlie Kirk because Charlie Kirk had character. Charlie Kirk had real spirit. Charlie Kirk had drive. And I'm not talking about the drive that Nick Fuentes has. I will get into that in a second. But Charlie Kirk had deep, deep abiding morals and ethics and beliefs. Nick Fuentes has none. Nothing. The only thing Nick Fuentes ever cares about is himself. And he's going to say the most asinine, stupid garbage online to get as much of a following as he possibly can. That's it. He'll never replace Charlie Kirk. And I'll never let him. You say, well, you don't have much of people listening. You're right. But I'm going to do everything I possibly can. And there's plenty of people like me out there that are going to do everything they possibly can to prevent someone as crazy as that person from creeping into the Republican Party. And be very clear. He is not in our Republican Party. He is not with us. That guy is crazy. And the part that makes me the most angry about him is the fact that he's playing upon young men's emotions and feelings of all the garbage that they're going through in society right now and playing on it to get his crappy agendas through. And I'm over with the lies. I'm over with the lies from Nick Fuentes. This constant idea of just saying, well, I'm just asking the questions. These questions must be asked. They must be asked. The most dishonest man that has ever existed is the man who asks a question never intending to answer that question. The person who says, well, I don't know, man. What's going on with this? What's going on with this? Or it takes me back to the serpent in the garden when he says, yea, have God said? And then the problem is a lot of these young people that listen to this think that they're unbiased because, well, I don't necessarily agree with them. I'm unbiased. I'm willing to listen. The moment you hear that question expressed, you're no longer unbiased. Because by forming it in the shape of a question, they can bypass your proper judgment. Because they're not really saying these things. They're just asking the question. It's the same garbage that Candace Owens does, trying to get away from actually presenting facts. And the problem is there's so much empathy in this younger generation. And I thought it was impressive. I was reminded of this today, that Allie Beth Stuckey, who I do not watch, did a great job on Jubilee with regards to how empathy can be toxic. Because you can force this idea of your feelings on someone else. And I presented this to one of the young men. I was like, you can say anything's okay as long as I can get in your feelings about how you feel at the moment. Meaning, if you have moral beliefs that you stand in, as long as I can find someone who's good and nice, who's that way. And I was cracking up because there was someone I was talking about to today about this. And they were talking about how, well, this religion is super nice. And one of their guys was just super friendly. And I know they don't believe the right stuff, but they were just super friendly and super awesome. And I said, you know what? And there's a lot of really, really nice atheists out there too. And just because there's a lot of really nice atheists out there doesn't mean we have to have feelings for them and say, well, they must honestly have some kind of truth there. That's not how it works. And this constant garbage from him and the dishonesty of Nick Fuentes, when everyone knows what he's saying, what he believes, and what he feels. But I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. Ha ha ha. You keep joking the same joke. It's not a joke. And you can retract all you want after the fact, after you've joked and said the stuff that you said. But it's still there. And what part of you am I supposed to believe? When you said it the first time? Or when you came back, like, I'm joking. I didn't actually mean that. Regardless of what the young people out there think about Nick Fuentes, this guy is a complete loser who gets you with a few truths. And this is the same garbage that Andrew Tate would do, where he'd give the young men of America a few good truths, right, to get them hooked in. And then start asking questions. I'm just asking the questions. And then a lot of them got sucked into the garbage that guy was peddling. Yes. Does Nick Fuentes say some things that are correct? Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So does every single trashy human being. At some point, they'll say something correct. But when you have a judge them by their fruit will show you who they are. And none of the fruit from Nick Fuentes is any good. And all it does is leave young men pining for something more. And I remember there was a comment that a young man made to me about how no one's doing anything for the young men in our country. Good. Cool. That's not how this country was built. By someone doing something for you. We were built on an idea that we had a duty to our country. We were built on the idea that we have a duty to our families. We were built on the idea that we have a duty to our society, and we have a duty to God, and all of those things. And the moment we stop looking at ourselves and saying what duties we have, and how much you should give me, and help me, and take care of me, and I don't want to hear any young man telling me, well, you don't know how hard it is. Yes, I do know how hard it is. Okay? I was a young man moving out to California when there was no money. I was working for $14 an hour as a married man trying to have a place to live. And all their criticisms of Charlie Kirk, well, Charlie Kirk's telling him to get out there and get a house and have a family. Yes, those are good aspirations to have. Everyone should have those aspirations. I understand how hard it is to go get a house. I understand what I can't get and what I can get. I was making $350 a week, but bi-weekly, so it's $700. And paying $1,400 just for the rent to buy an apartment. That's not the gas. That's not the electric. That's not the water bill. That's not food. And at one point, we had a budget. Between me and my wife, we had a budget. $3 for dinner for both of us. $2 for lunch for both of us. And $1 for breakfast for both of us. I know what it's like. So I don't want to hear these young people out there saying, oh, you don't know how hard it is. Yes, we do. Some of us do out here know, and we've grown up a little bit. We've let our emotions not take control of us enough that we can look at this garbage and know who Nick Fuentes is because we've seen enough lions and garbage snakes out there to know one when we see one. And I know a good quality person when I see one too. And the problem is I see a lot of good quality young men that are getting caught up in all this stuff because Nick Fuentes happens to say a few good things. And because he says a few good things, they discount the garbage and the rest of the stuff that really is the truth, that really Nick Fuentes is pushing, but he doesn't want to admit it. Unfortunately, the problem is even the left understands that he's actually pushing this stuff because that's why he's being banned off of places. Do I think he should be banned? No, I just think we should stop listening to him. And I would love for nothing more than for this to drop into obscurity and for him never to be seen again. And I'm going to make one final note on this. You'll know them by their fruit. What did Charlie Kirk do? He built. And he built. And he built. And he built. And he built. You say, well, he had so much money. He was so lucrative. Yes. Yes, he was. You're right. And I could be envious of that too. With my little tiny channel that's not making me any money. And he had this huge microphone. We could all be envious of other people. That's not the point. The point is he built something. And he was started with a few donors who saw a man with convictions, with character. And then he built the empire that you see today, that is TPUSA, and put a president into the White House. Because he built. And he encouraged others to build. Nick Fuentes out there saying, I'm going to tear down the Republican Party. I'm going to tear down Charlie Kirk. I'm going to tear down J.D. Vance. What a child. What a bratty boy who doesn't know how to build. And because he doesn't know how to build, and because he doesn't have the character and the skill and the integrity to build, he's going to try to destroy. Know them by their fruits. Wake up, America. Please. Young men, look at what the fruit of these people are. What are their fruits? If they're not trying to make you better, they're not worth listening to. If they're just going to give you handouts, you don't deserve it. Work for it. There used to be a point in this country when we felt ashamed if we were handed something. And that's not to say that the government or whatever shouldn't help to make the economy better, make it easier for people to have homes and that kind of thing if they can, within regulation and regulatory, that kind of thing. Absolutely. But we as a Republican Party have always been about cutting regulations so that people can do the things on their own, so they can build themselves up and become better. Not of handouts. And if Nick Fuentes is out there going, well, no one's doing anything for the young men, and neither is he. When was the last time he helped out a young man? He doesn't. Because it's about him. And he's going to say the most ludicrous, craziest things he can possible to keep pushing and pushing and pushing his name out there, to get notoriety as much as he possibly can, to get as many clicks and views as he possibly can. Ignore him. Ignore him. Push the crap and garbage aside. And society doesn't owe you anything. It doesn't owe me anything. In fact, if you're to take it back to its brass tacks, we are owed sin and death. That's what we're owed. That's justice. But God has given us not only the free gift of life, if we believe on Him, but also a Bible that shows us the morals, and I mentioned this yesterday, and the truths that show us that someone like a Tucker Carlson, someone like a Candace Owens, and definitely someone like a Nick Fuentes don't match up with the Bible. And when I have a choice between someone who just happens to say a few good things that I like It might be misunderstood sometimes. And the Bible, the choice is easy. Get out there, hear what these young people are saying, their issues, and help build them up. Older people, I'm talking to older people now, be a mentor. Help them. Don't hand them stuff. Help them. Make them learn. Make them grow. Push them. Give them the most valuable tools that they can ever have, and that's putting on their own boots with their own bootstraps. Teach them how to do it. Because if we don't teach them how to do it, we fail them. And we have been failing them. And that's why they're ripe for the picking by someone like a Nick Fuentes. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and spread the word. Spread the word. This message needs to get out there. Not Nick's crap, but this message of the hope and faith that is in our Bible and in our faith and in our belief in Jesus Christ, and not the hatred that is peddled by these monsters. Thank you.